Hi, Jim.
How are you?
I'm well, doing well.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
So tell me about 19, like 2019, and your wine showed really well already. I did taste them, particularly Lynch, but Lynch-Bages was beautiful and Bataille. What are you feeling now that they're in bottle for all this time? What are you thinking about the vintage?
I think it's a very successful vintage, ripe forward fruit. So a vintage that is easy to understand and is very pleasing, even young. I think it's not as tight as the 2010 when they were bottled, for instance. I think it's more forward vintage. It's one of the great vintage of the past 5 years in Bordeaux. We had a good string of vintages. We had 16, 18, 19, and 20, which is, I think, the greatest succession we have on record. Usually have 2-3 great vintage in a row, but now this is like 4 vintage. And 19 is the most accessible of those vintage. I think because of the ripe fruit, and the tannins that are very ripe and not aggressive at all. I think it's a vintage a bit like the 09, which will remain accessible at any stage almost.
Yeah, that's the thing, because some people I think are misinterpreting the vintage now that it's in bottle, and they're thinking that, oh, it's too open, it's too attractive to taste, you can even drink it. But like you said, 2009s were like that, 15. Well, the obvious is 82, but obviously I don't think it's at that quality level, but 80 or 90 was like that. So we love it. What's wrong with that?
No, there's no problem with it. You know, some vintages have to go through a dump phase, and you have to be more patient. But this one is really enjoyable young. I mean, this is of course the one that we'll wait for a few years. But on a consumer point of view, this is something people can stock and decide to open even very young.
And also, a lot of people forgot, but they came out at reasonable prices too. They were less expensive than 18. So it was really great, considering it was a good value too.
It was the perfect vintage at the perfect time. Everything came up as, with a good timing. The vintage, was an easy vintage to produce. We didn't go through a difficult growing season. The summer was hot, but not hot and dry, but not overeating. We didn't have problems with burning, with some burns on the grapes, and the harvest took place on normal dates in September towards the 23rd until October 9-10. So long maturity cycle, no rush in getting the grapes didn't suffer too much stress, and what came after with the En Primeur campaign, that was postponed because of the pandemic. People couldn't taste the wines in Bordeaux. Sample was sent over to our most important customers, and then there was a good window to release the wine in June. It was a rather late campaign, when there was an opening and people were getting back to a normal life, with a desire to believe in the future, and therefore the buying En Primeur is always an act of faith. You have to.
I didn't think of that.
and you know, and Bordeaux gave a compelling reason for those consumers to put their money down in a wine that was not ready to drink or and not even to be shipped, and people were there was a lot of enthusiasm about the 19, and everything, all the planets were aligned. Great wine, very good pricing, and also very good timing. So it was. I remember all the merchants told me how successful the campaign was and how it expanded the customer base. I think the most important commercially on this campaign was that the négociant in Bordeaux found great depth in the market, new consumers, rather younger, and also new markets, smaller markets, and people who didn't used to buy en primeur suddenly, you know, got interest in this campaign, and that was very good for Bordeaux.
That's really, really interesting. And I remember you're right. Even I bought a few cases, and I'm not exactly the youngest guy anymore. So that's you know. So I think you're so right, and that was real. I remember it was like the only good news in the wine world that year.
That was, you know, just before the summer, and before we got a second wave. You know, we were coming out of the first wave. At the time, we didn't know that there would be a succession of waves, variants, etc. And everything went well, and people, even though the situation hasn't got so much better in terms of pandemic, people have come out of that first wave with the desire to buy wine, drink wine, and it hasn't stopped ever since. You know, we had an incredible year last year in terms of sales of all vintages, and I think that campaign with this vintage 2019 is part of the reason the market took off so seriously.
Wow.
It's you know, it's a good en primeur campaign, brings lights on Bordeaux, and helps diffuse all the wines and broaden the distribution as well.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Even though some people write and say that there's no interest in en primeur, which I find funny, but because that's very interesting what you say, that there's a broader base now, and actually it's fun.
Yeah, I think it's I don't agree with that point of view, and just 2019 is a good example that there is interest in en primeur, and even though some years are not as great value as others, if you look back over the last 5 vintages, except for the 2017, which is just starting to increase in value now, except for that vintage, all the other vintages, you know, were a good buy for consumers. So, you know, there's always a lot of criticism about Bordeaux, but I think it's because Bordeaux is leading and is very visible.
Okay,
That's
let's taste some wines.
So we have Homme de Pèse.
Yeah. So Homme de Pèse, you're really doing, you know, the wines are really good now, and consistently at a high level, and again, a good price.
Well, this is a very very charming Homme de Pèse. A lot of Merlot in this vintage for Homme de Pèse. We have 50% Merlot and 40% Cabernet. Makes the wine very round, very sexy actually.
Yeah, it's really delicious now.
Supple.
And
Yeah,
even though it'll be better in 3 years or so, but it's really yummy.
yeah, it's yummy. And the
Okay,
next
so Au Bataillé.
Bataillé 19 of third vintage at Au Bataillé since we acquired the property in 2017.
Do you think you're getting the real character of the vineyards now? Actually, this wine tastes much more Pauillac than it did. You're getting more lead pencil and stones and graphite and blue fruits, right?
Yeah.
Before it was a little bit sort of softer, earthier character.
I think we got better level of ripeness and precision in definition of the tannins. High percentage of Cabernet Sauvignon this year with 76% Cabernet Sauvignon on Au Bataillé, so hence the lead pencil notes and the very Pauillac character.
Yeah.
It's you know, the parcels are very south of the appellation, very close to Saint-Julien. So it's a Pauillac wine with leaning towards a little bit Saint-Julien in terms of style, with this great elegance and finesse. It's more, I would say this one is a bit more feminine compared to Lynch-Bages, which is bolder, more powerful. Au Bataillé is a very delicate wine with great finesse.
I find this a little bit tight now, but at the same time, like you said, it's delicate.
It's actually, I agree with that. It's a bit tighter than Homme de Pez, which is really fleshy and more upfront. But it's got very good length and great potential. This wine, in the lineup, is probably the one that is that's a little bit more restrained at this stage.
Yeah, it's showing really nice, really beautiful structure. Again, I find it super Pauillac and a really nice. I get the feeling you're really getting there now, where you're getting the true character of the of that area there where the estate is. Does Lynch-Bages have vineyards that are adjacent to it?
Completely.
Yeah, because I was thinking that the Lynch-Bages hut or pigeonnier is right. Isn't it right there?
No. Actually, more in the south of the appellation. The beginning of the Pauillac appellation starts with a parcel that belongs to Lynch-Bages, and we have 16 hectares at the south of the appellation. When you come from Saint-Julien, Saint-Laurent, we are at the really entry of Pauillac. And then following that parcel of Lynch-Bages, there is a main plateau of Au Bataillé, where you have the famous tower, La Tour L'Aspic, which is one of the symbol of Pauillac. And then you have, let's say, 50-60% of the estate of Au Bataillé. And past that, you have in between Grand Puy-Lacoste, Lynch-Bages, the Pichon, and Bataillé, you have a big plateau where the two vineyards of Lynch-Bages and Au Bataillé intersect, and then after it's Lynch-Bages. So from south to north, when you get into Pauillac, you have consecutively Lynch-Bages, Au Bataillé, and then the two blend together, and then it's Lynch-Bages. So it's really interesting the way I should show you on the parcel on the map of the two vineyards intersect and combine on one plateau here.
So in the end, how do you think Au Bataillé, how will the wine be different than Lynch-Bages? A little bit less fleshy or less concentrated, do you think?
More elegant, more tighter wines for sure.
Yeah.
Less powerful and exuberant, but very very delicate and very defined and very precise wines. Lynch-Bages is a bold Pauillac with lots of concentration and a forward style. Au Bataillé is more restrained, great elegance with very nice and sharp Cabernet Sauvignon, but the style a little bit more restrained and leaning towards Saint-Julien more than towards the bold Pauillac.
Okay, so let's go to the Lange. It's much plusher than the Au Bataillé, but it's still quite tight at this stage. And the fact that it's sort of tight makes it more drinkable too, in a way. Like it holds back so you can sort of enjoy it. The tannins are not at all aggressive.
No, they're not at all. They're not grippy. They're very smooth, very silky.
Totally.
Which will make the wine more easy to open at a young age.
It reminds me a bit of the 85. I don't think you were probably too young then, but I liked the 85 was a bit like that, and it aged. Your 85 was really good.
After I can't say I've tasted the 85 after bottling, like you did.
I know, but it was really awesome. Well, anyways, you made a lot of awesome wines in the 80s, as you know. But that's a real beauty, and really has the lead pencil and crushed stone and violets.
Yes, it's very nice, and the tannins really are silky.
Okay, buddy. Listen, thanks for the tasting, and good to catch up.
Well,
and we're going to see you live if you're in town this summer when we get to Bordeaux.
I'll be around. Keep me posted.
Will do. Okay, mon ami. Ça my best to your parents.
Bientôt. I will.
Okay, à bientôt. Ciao, merci.